Hello and welcome or welcome back to my second channel. Hello and welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Kylie. I also mainly go by Haunted Hippie. Okay, that's my main channel. That's where I talk about horror movies. Today, though, is a story time of when I was hospitalized with appendicitis. Very cute, very demure. Obviously, my usual thing on this channel is not talking about appendicitis, so if you're just here for the information, that's fine. But if you find yourself enjoying your time here, the other things that I talk about, obviously horror movies on Haunted Hippie, but then here I usually talk about physical media and then also travel content. Sometimes I talk about non-horror movies. I talked about the Oscars recently, but today is a story time of my recent near-death experience. I'm just making this video to hopefully arm people with knowledge. This is so far outside of the realm of usual content that I make, but I really had no idea what was happening to me because I just never really considered having such an extreme medical issue, especially not at my age, and I'm an extremely healthy person. So it just was never something that I even considered. So if I can get a couple thousand people to at least consider it and like equip themselves with this knowledge, should it happen to you, then maybe this will help you get to the hospital in time. If you're watching this from the hospital bed, if you're in the ER right now, hope you're okay. I hope that maybe I have some soothing words for you, though I don't really recommend Googling a whole bunch of stuff before you go into surgery. I did that, but I don't really remember doing so. The only reason why I know that I did is because when the surgeon came in, like pre-surgery, he was like, "So have you been Googling a bunch of stuff about appendicitis?" And I remember that I responded, "I have been, just a little bit as a treat." I don't remember doing it at all. So let's jump into the story, okay? I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I was acting a fool. Let me tell you, there are some fun little twists and turns of this story. Now, I got out of the hospital 2 weeks ago, but this story starts several months back and maybe even further back, because something that I didn't know until a couple of days ago is that you can be living with appendicitis for a really long time. I believe that I was suffering from chronic appendicitis. I just had no idea. I just was thinking, damn, like, am I developing IBS in my mid-20s? Am I just gonna keep getting more and more sensitive to different foods as I age? Maybe that's part of it a little bit. I think me and dairy, we're never gonna be like the best of friends. That's off topic. So a little story. Back in November, I was at a wrap party for this movie that we shot, and we were all out to dinner having a really good time. It was like Mexican food and we were having alcohol. I started to have pretty severe pain in my stomach. I thought that it was just like indigestion or gas pain or whatever, but it was to the point that I had to go with my partner across the street and we had to get some Pepto-Bismol there, and I was like crunched over on the curb outside of that establishment, like moaning a little bit. Looking back, I'm like, that was kind of an unreasonable amount of pain for me to be in, but took some Pepto-Bismol and went on my merry way. I was fine. And there have been other instances in like the past year or so that I've had really painful gas, but again, I just was like, well, I'm in my mid-20s now. I'm not a teenager anymore. I don't know. I just was like, yeah, right. My body's probably just like starting to fall apart a little bit. In general, I just have had like poor digestion for a little while. And for the record, I eat a lot of whole foods. Usually in the mornings, I will have oatmeal with some raw honey, and I like to cut up bananas and strawberries. That's what I eat almost every morning. I also have tea in the mornings. I'm not a big coffee person, except on the weekends as a treat. But even then, I'm getting like matchas, you know? I'll usually have pretty basic sandwiches for lunch, and then if I cook a dinner, then, you know, I'm doing some pan-seared fish or, you know, it's just stuff like that, like whole veggies. I'm making basic pastas, and I work out like 4 or 5 times a week, right? So like I was health-wise and like digestive-wise, I should have been in a really good place. But then also over the past year, I have had 4 different colds, and I was getting over my last one, which was my worst one by far out of all of them, when the appendicitis struck. Also, for the purposes of keeping a little bit of the mystery alive, I am going to be referring to going number 3. Is it number 3? Whatever. You use context clues. I'm gonna be referring to that as losing fluids, okay? But I had traveled up to Northern California. I had been on a plane several days before. The day before I left, I was having raging losing fluids, but I just chalked that up to, well, I had 2 beers at lunchtime, and I don't know the last time that I've had beer that it didn't like severely upset my stomach. Once again, I just thought, you know, that's just one of those things about getting older, I guess I'm just gonna be a person that cannot have beer. Maybe that's still true, but I'm just like, it all kind of starts stacking up because that was the day before I was hospitalized. The day that it happened was the day that I flew back down to Southern California. And during the daytime, the only weird thing that I noticed going on with my body was that my appetite was like cut in half. My mom served me up a wonderful kind of normal breakfast that she normally would while I'm home, and I was like halfway through it before I was like, thought that was kind of weird, but I just was like, okay, not much of an appetite today. And then we went out to one of my favorite lunch spots ever, up in my parents' town. Super healthy, like chicken, lettuce, avocado wrap, you know, with rice thing. Could only eat half of it, and then I was feeling like really full and just like kind of disgusted. Go to the airport, I eat the other half of that wrap at the airport because I'm like, well, I need to eat. Land in LA around 8:20, and then very shortly after I land, I am not feeling good. I start getting the feeling of what I'm perceiving to be just some painful gas, but it's really high up and it's like above my belly button. So I'm like, okay, I'm just in for a night of like hugging my pillow in different positions and whatever, like it'll pass. I still need to probably eat something else. I haven't eaten enough calories today. So we stop at In-N-Out, and mind you, normally I will get a double and an order of fries, a good amount of food, and I put it all down. I was like, you know, my appetite is really not good right now because I'm feeling kind of gassy. Like I just, maybe just a half of a single cheeseburger. And that really was all I ate, if I even ate half of it. I don't know. After I finished that while still in the car, I was like laying the seat back and was just like, ooh, like really starting to not feel very good. Still felt like gas, like still didn't seem like anything serious. But then as we were getting out of the parking lot, I was like, dude, we need to stop by like Ralph's or whatever. Like we need Pepto-Bismol. I don't think I have anything at home, and like I'm starting to be really, really uncomfortable, to the point where we get to the store and I'm like, you go in, like just go get it. Like I was becoming like visibly irritable, and I turned over and like got into a fetal position on my knees in the front seat of the car while I was waiting for him. He comes back, I pop 2 of them, but then by the time we get to my house, so this all happens in the span of like, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes from finishing my meal at In-N-Out to getting home. And I'm like, you need to take my stuff upstairs. Like I need to go to the bathroom. So Scott, bless him, he, you know, carried all my luggage up while I am having the worst time of my life in the bathroom. He's waiting in my bedroom. I lose some fluids, and then I come back into my room and I think that I can like maybe curl up on my bed, and I'm just like, you can probably just go home. Like he had work the next morning. I was like, I don't think there's anything you can do. Like I just kind of need to wait for this to pass. And I don't know if he had some intuition or what, but he just didn't leave. It was getting pretty late, and I went back into the bathroom, and then it got to a point where I couldn't leave the bathroom, losing fluids. And then I texted him, I don't know, around like 10:30 maybe, and I was like, the pain is so bad, I think I'm about to throw up. And I did. Then I lost some more fluids, and then I threw up again. And then I was losing fluids and thinking that I would throw up while I was on the toilet. And the reason why I knew that something was definitely wrong was that I was going through all of this and thinking maybe I had food poisoning or something. So after each round, you know, I was expecting to feel some relief. I was experiencing no relief. In fact, the pain kept getting worse the more that I was releasing, let's say. So I was saying to Scott, like, we need to go to urgent care, but it was really late, and he was like, they're probably not open. We would probably just have to go to the ER. And even in that delirious state, after being curled up on the bathroom floor for 2 hours in severe pain, I said something about the ER being fucking expensive. I live in hell, by the way. I'm sorry, did I say hell? I meant the United States of America. So I was like, please just call them. And he's like, well, your symptoms are really general. Like, I don't know what good a phone call is gonna do. And I was like, just fucking call them. So he calls the ER, and I don't know who's on the line. I think she's a nurse. She assesses my symptoms. What did it was the fact that I was in constant pain. I never experienced any relief. It wasn't like menstrual cramping where it came in waves or anything like that. It was constant pain. And also that I had been in pain at that point for over 3 hours. So she was like, you gotta come in. By that point, I had stripped off all my clothing because I got really hot, and then I got the chills, and I think I'd left my clothes in the bedroom or something. I don't know. The point is, Scott had to dress me. I could barely stand up at that point. And what did he dress me in, you might be wondering? Maybe not, but you should, because it's kind of insane, but we'll you know what? We'll get to that. So I live on the second floor of my house. I am like shaking as we walk down the stairs. He's having to lead me and like prop me up. Worst car ride of my entire life, even though it was only 10 minutes long. I'm laid back, but like curled up. Yes, I had my seatbelt on, but I'm in so much misery. I'm asking him, how far are we? We're 6 minutes away. How far are we? We're 4 minutes away. How far are we? We're 2 minutes away. By the time we get there, I cannot walk. And I was in like a 9 out of 10 in pain. The only reason why I don't say 10 out of 10 is because I was still conscious. But we roll up and we're maybe like 30 feet from the front door of the ER. And I'm trying to tell Scott, like, I cannot walk. I'm going to pass out. At that point, I was feeling numbness in like my arms, my face, like above my knees. And he was like, it's right there. It's right there. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. And I was like, you're not fucking listening to me. I said it really mean. Like I was in distress. There was a wheelchair like right in front of the car anyway. I was like, get the wheelchair. And so he rolls me in, and checking in to the ER is a different kind of hell. There are so many different people that you encounter while you're going through the whole hospital system, and every single one of them asks you the same goddamn questions. And I don't begrudge them that, because obviously they're trying to avoid like medical malpractice. They want to make sure that they're treating the right person, etc. But it doesn't make it not fucking annoying, especially when I can barely speak. I'm like losing my grip on my consciousness. Getting checked in actually was really easy, but then the waiting, this was the longest night of my life. Our hospital is being remodeled right now, so all of the ER patients are basically just stuck out in hallways. I get in there, and the lady that checks us in, she gives us a thing to like collect my pee. So very cute. Scott had to help me in the bathroom do all of that. A mess. The first round of the ER, I assume, even if it was a little bit more comfortable, still would be an annoying waiting game, because like our hospital is understaffed. And then also in the first round of the ER, I'm assuming that's kind of where they separate the people that are really in dire need of help from the, the crazies. So we get to the nurses in there, they get my pee, they ask 11 million questions, or that's just what it felt like at the time. An awkward question, because like I just was so out of it, like I could barely answer these questions. They were like, what is your alcohol and drug use like? Fair question, because I probably looked like I was going through withdrawal or something, and they probably asked that, they probably ask everyone. I said my usage was like normal, because like my brain was not working correctly. I was like, I don't know, it's like, it's normal. And the nurse was like very confused, rightfully so. Girl, I'm sorry. I was like, I don't know, I smoke weed every few weeks maybe, and I drink socially. She was like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, like normally, I don't know. Then they take your blood, and I had just had my blood drawn literally like 2 days prior. So even in my haze, because I still had like some of the bruising from having my blood drawn, I'm like, oh my God, they think I'm just like strung out or something. Is it gonna be harder for me to like get the actual help I need? Like, is this gonna derail things? They also ask like any daily medications and stuff. I don't distinctly remember how many times I rolled back and forth from this like ER room and then the hallway. It was a very weird situation. I think that it was at that point that they gave me a half dose of morphine. That hurt like hell. That was a shot in the arm, and that was painful. If I could do it over again though, I would take the full dose. I requested the half dose because I had never had morphine before. I had never had an IV before. I had never been hospitalized before. I was like, I don't know. I'm completely unaware of any allergies that I have to like a lot of these medications. I just was scared and not thinking clearly. Maybe I also stupidly rationalized it as like, well, if I'm still in severe pain, I can just ask for more. But they were so busy and just woefully understaffed. Like that just was not going to happen. They then put the IV in my hand, but my hands were not working. They were no longer working at that point. I was hyperventilating and I didn't realize it. I straight up was just sitting there panting like a dog. And the lady that was doing my IV, she was like, I cannot find the veins. Your hand is freezing. Like I need to put a heat pack on it. And I was like, yeah, I can't feel my hands. Like I really feel like I'm gonna pass out. And Scott told me that she was like not rude, but kind of firm with me. And he was like, I thought that she really should have been nicer to you. I didn't notice, but she said to me that she was like, well, yeah, you're breathing really hard. Like you need to start breathing slower. I took no notice of her tone because I was completely unaware of how I was breathing. And so I did then try to like start breathing slower. But then very shortly after I would start panting again. Like I was so out of it. I was on the verge of passing out for forever. But she gets it in, I guess. Because let me tell you, my memory of this whole, the first like 12 hours I'm there is extremely spotty. I do remember being put back out in the hallway for another 3 hours. I'm gonna start showing some photos now, and they're kind of scary, but bear in mind that I am, once again, the picture of health. This is the most distressed I've ever been in my entire life. My face was really swollen and ghastly white. Also, my eyes were red and kind of swollen, and I look like I was on death's door. Because I was. Honey, that thing was so close to bursting, so just brace yourself. Okay, I might look a little scary if you're used to seeing my face done up in goth makeup and whatever. So yeah, there she is. This was the most miserable moment of my entire life. I can say that with absolute certainty. You can tell that my face is like numb because my upper lip has like shrunk. It's very crinkled in because I had no circulation to my face at that time, nor my hands. I am also going to show a photo of my hand. I also find this photo disturbing in retrospect, but you can see how it's kind of bent up. At this moment in time, my wrist was in a lot of pain. I could not move my hands. At that point, after I got the morphine, I wanted to text my mom and like let her know what was going on. So Scott hands me my phone and I'm holding it like this and I'm like, I can't move my thumbs, like my hands aren't working. So as you can see, my fingers are looking kind of purplish white, like they almost look like they're starting to be kind of necrotic. Of course they weren't, I just had absolutely no circulation, but my hands were freaking me the fuck out. The only thing that the morphine did also was make me like nod off a couple of times while I was sitting in that wheelchair, just out in the hallway, and there was some guy that was like a little further down the hallway, and he was up like moving around and he was moaning and stuff. And listen, I was moaning too, but the ambiance just was freaking me out. There also were just strangers near me. I didn't get checked in with like my ID and my insurance until after I got, you know, the IV and stuff, and I could barely speak to this woman. I was so beyond overstimulated. Like I could not have Scott even touching me to be like, you know, touching my shoulder saying it's okay or whatever. The pain was still raging and I just was sitting there waiting for a CAT scan. I don't know if in my life I'd ever been in pain to the point of needing to moan with every single exhale, but it was almost kind of like a meditative thing because when you hum and whatever, it stimulates your vagus nerve. Oh, also they had given me an ice pack for my neck. So I got an ice pack for my neck and then a heat pad for my hand. But if you think of like a woman in labor when she's having contractions, usually when she's breathing out, she'll be like, or like, oh, yeah, I was doing all of that. I had absolutely no shame. I cannot describe to you the pain that I was in. So then finally around like 3 in the morning, I get a CAT scan. Mind you, I'd been there since about 12. That shit was so weird. They stretch you out on this table with your arms above your head. I had never gotten one before, so just had no idea what to expect. They give you iodine through the IV, and that was painful. I don't think my IV was done super well. I definitely had an IV leak because I still have pain. It still kind of feels bruised right now. We'll get to that later. Iodine comes in. It feels kind of warm. Like there's only a little bit of pain at first, but then it feels really warm, like going down your arm. And then they tell you, they're like, you're gonna feel like you're peeing. Don't worry, you're not peeing. Hey, sure enough, that was really, really weird. And then you have to listen to the instructions when you're in this kind of tube thing, and it's like, breathe in, hold your breath, breathe out. Oddly enough though, when I was in the CAT tube, is it called a CAT scan or is it a CT scan? Oh, it's known as both. Okay. Being stretched out actually did finally offer me some relief to my abdominal pain. So when I got out of the scan, I was actually starting to feel a little bit better. I don't know, surely it doesn't take 3 hours for morphine to kick in, but maybe it was something about like my positioning with my arms. It finally made its way to my abdomen. I don't know. I started to feel just a little bit better. And then pretty shortly after that, they got me into a room in the ER. The ER was crazy, okay? They're wheeling me through the hallway and there are people hooked up to IVs in beds out in the hallway of the ER. I had no idea that this was what it was like. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm so lucky. Like I showed up at the same time as a lot of these people and I got a room. Like, wow, I really lucked out here. That's not really the case though. One of Scott's brother's partners, she went to nursing school. She worked in a hospital for a little while and I was kind of telling her the story of like, you know, being in the ER, how horrible it was in the hallway and whatever. And she was like, yeah, and it sucks that only the real crazies and really loud people will end up getting the beds in the rooms. And I was like, oh, I got put in a room. And she was like, oh, you must have looked really, really bad to them then. And I was like, yeah, well, you know, it was appendicitis. So here I was thinking that I was lucky. And she was like, no, when you're in that severe of distress, they want you to be as as comfortable and non-anxious as possible. I was like, that makes sense. I definitely needed some pretty extreme care. But she wasn't kidding though. I was like, oh yeah, about 2 doors down from me, there was a woman that was like screaming and cackling for most of the night. It's so loud. It's so loud in the ER. But when you get in there and you finally are actually like in the ER, there's different levels, right? I don't know. That's when you get the good drugs, okay? That was when I was given Dilaudid, and I loved my first nurse. I wish that I could remember her name, but the pain, the drugs, I was gone. I was literally personally thanking my nurse for taking my pain away. It was night and day. I felt a literal sensation of a wave going down my abdomen of just pure relief. And also that nurse was really, really kind. I was like, I'm so thirsty. And she's like, you can't really have water right now, but I'll bring you ice chips. She was very proactive too. Like none of the other people in my care really were this on top of things. I mean, they were, of course they were with like the medications and everything. It was a great hospital, but she was the only one to take it a step further and be like, oh, do you want me to dim the lights so you can get some rest? Oh, do you want me to shut this door so you don't feel like you're, I was like, yes, thank you. Like, yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I finally got some sleep at this point. This was about 3:30 in the morning, and poor Scott had to sleep on a chair and then with his head on like a hospital tray. But bless him, he almost never left for like my entire stay at the hospital. Then a little over an hour later, we're woken up, which I don't know. I hesitate to say that anyone coming in ever actually woke me up. They did, but it was so loud in the ER that the noises from everyone talking, all the super loud beeping, it was in my dreams. So that is also why a lot of it, I don't know how much of it was real. This was real though. I don't know if she was like the charge nurse or what for the ER, but she comes in and she tells me your white blood cell count is really high. And based on the CAT scan, I am not a doctor, but it's my opinion that it's probably going to be your appendix. And this is when I start texting everybody. Let me just do a dramatic reading of some of the funnier texts that I sent. I was supposed to go to a concert that Friday night. Unfortunately, I missed out on seeing my favorite band and we were supposed to go with friends. So I text my friend Natalie and I say, so what up? No easy way to say this, but your girl has been hospitalized with appendicitis. I will probably be having surgery later today. And then I send just a gorgeous selfie here. The hilarious thing is that I probably took this multiple times and I decided, yep, that's the one. That one looks good. And then I said, might need a rain check on that concert. Oh, this was also around the time, about 5:30 in the morning, that I took a video. Don't know why I took this. I did not send this to anybody. Why don't I just let it speak for itself? I was just told I'm likely having an organ removed today, but I'm being really brave about it. So I was being really brave about it, and then there aren't any more pictures or videos for another 4 hours, so I think I finally got some sleep, and Scott did too, but poor Scott was just like on that table. I'm really in and out of things until like 9 a.m., and by then I'm looking much more alive, but my face is looking a little more like properly filled out. It looked kind of swollen before, and then I looked really gaunt, and then here I look a little bit more hydrated again, but it was also after like finally getting just a couple hours of sleep. I also was feeling so much better because of the pain medication. I was like getting up and going to the bathroom by myself. I was just feeling so much better. So at that time, even though I had been told that, hey, it's probably your appendix, I was thinking, well, I'm feeling so much better. Like maybe they're going to opt not to do surgery. Maybe I'll just do some antibiotics, or maybe it really was just a really bad intestinal infection. But then around this time, of course, is when they confirmed that I will indeed be getting cut open. So I start shaking. And so then I ask for anxiety medication. Ask for what you need. They'll give it to you. Of course, that made me even goofier. I'm napping in and out throughout the day. There are people coming in, like the surgeon and his shadows. That was really weird to me because like I know that these people are supposed to just be shadowing. I would prefer that when the surgeon comes in, he goes, oh, I'm Dr. So-and-so, these are my shadows, blank and blank, and then just do the spiel. Like just an acknowledgement, but the fact that they just come in and they just stand there and they just watch you and there's no mention of them, like the surgeon literally just pretends they're not there. That was kind of weird vibes to me. I also, at some point around then, between like 9 a.m. and 1 p.m., it's really foggy. I remember being asked, like I said, by the surgeon if I had been Googling appendix stuff, and I said just a little bit as a treat. I remember being asked if I was clear of mind enough to sign the paperwork to like have surgery. I don't really remember actually signing it. I do not remember the contents of that paperwork. I think that Scott was there though when I was dealing with that. I'm pretty sure. He left at one point because he had work that day, and like he's in sales, so he just had some calls that like he couldn't miss. He took them from the ER though. He didn't leave me. So I think that he was there for that. I don't know. The next photo doesn't come in until 1:21 p.m. where I am showing off my outfit, my hospital outfit, to some of my friends. And the texts that I was sending at this time, I'd been in my bed for maybe 10 hours that point. I had been loaded up with a lot of good drugs. I'm a couple hours out from my surgery. I start showing off the fact that I'm wearing a Twilight sweatshirt in the ER because that was what Scott had chosen to dress me in. I think it's very slay. I don't resent him for this at all. To preface this, I am not usually somebody that uses cunty in her vocabulary. That's not something I do. So these next texts are all the more bewildering. Oh god, oh my god, I didn't even realize I sent this to them. Oh god, at 9:20 I said, guess whose appendix decided to say peace out? Surgery later today, I guess, lol. Don't remember sending that. I just thought that I took that selfie. I don't remember sending that, so that's fine. Anyway, I said, just cause a girly is hospitalized doesn't mean she can't serve a little cunt. Of all the things Scott could have chosen to dress me in as we fled for the ER last night. Look, let me read the other one. I was also texting with my biological sister who she had had her appendix taken out at I think a similar age. She's a couple years older than me. She said maybe we'll have matching tummy scars. I said, yep, I get a belly button one and then I think 2 little ones on the left side. Honestly, being fully cut open would have left a way cuntier scar, but alas. Huh? What? I'm talking about I would have rather had the traditional appendicitis surgery where they like fully cut open your abdomen. Girl, what was I talking about? And why do I keep using the word Apparently, when I'm on all the world's best drugs, I like to use the C word. Sue me. At least at my core, when I truly have zero inhibitions, like to the point of blacking out, being so loopy and out of it, that I just want to be goofy as fuck. That was a really nice thing to learn about myself, actually. Around then, Scott also took some very chaotic photos of me in my Twilight sweatshirt in the bed, because shortly after that, I had to get changed, so he was like, let's document this fit. Around an hour later, I got dressed up in the gown. I had to take my clothes off. That sucked. And this appears to be my impression of doing pouty lips and peace signs. Not quite pulling it off, girl, but that's okay. You weren't doing well. So then after this, they wheel you in your bed to a surgery prep station. It felt a little bit awkward because at that time, I'm feeling pretty good. I felt like I could walk, but that's not how it works. You get wheeled around on your little bed. I had a really nice nurse there who was prepping me, and Scott was getting ready to head out because I was going to be in surgery for a little while, so he was going to be able to go home, and I was like, dude, you should nap. Like, you should get some sleep. Also at this time, something that mainly my fellow vagina owners will relate to, I asked her, I was like, who will be in the room with me? Because at that point, I'd also met the anesthesiologist and he was a man. I'd met the surgeon and he was a man, and you get where I'm going with that. If you don't, then you've never really had to fear for your life in that way. But anyway, so I ask her and then she tells me like she's gonna be in the room, and I was like, okay. She checks on my IV, but like I'm in pain, like she flushes it and she's like, oh, that shouldn't hurt when that happens. But nonetheless, she wheels me into the surgery room anyway. Oh, and I'm having a robotic assisted laparoscopic appendectomy, by the way. But once I get in there, the anesthesiologist is acting a little bit grumpy. He was like, oh, so you brought her in here with an IV that doesn't work. And that was the only sort of lighthearted moment there. I was only conscious for like a couple of minutes of being in the actual surgery room because I started crying, and the really nice nurse, she asked me, oh, honey, like, are you okay? Like, what's wrong? Lady, what's right now? But I wasn't gonna say that because I also was like very subdued with all the stuff that I was on. So I just was like, oh, I'm just a really anxious person. But also by that point, they'd moved me onto the surgery table and they like open up the back of your gown. So you're like kind of being tugged about and like being rocked around while they're like opening it, and then your bare ass is like on the surgery table and you're only covered by the gown, and there's like all these strangers around you, you know, it's weird. But they get the IV fixed there apparently, and then because I don't know if it's because I'm so anxious, but the anesthesiologist was like, I just gave you something to help you calm down. Are you starting to feel it? And after I said yes, I remember nothing else. Blacked out. Goodbye. Now, waking up from the appendectomy was the most traumatic moment probably of my entire life. life. Now I understand why in like some hospital scenes in movies, a patient will wake up and start ripping everything out of their body. I was so out of it. Like, apparently Scott got a call that I was out of surgery, and then he got another call saying, oh, it's probably gonna be another 30 minutes. She's not doing really well. She's in pain, like, etc. To me, it only felt like 2 minutes. So I clearly was out of it enough to start ripping shit out of my body. Like, I can guarantee you that. But I was shaking. And so I told the nurse, I was like, I'm shaking. Like, why am I shaking? She was like, oh, it's because of the anesthesia. And I was shaking to the point that it was like causing my abdomen pain. And so then I see the anesthesiologist. I was like, I'm shaking, like I'm in pain. And he's like, oh yeah, it's because you're waking up from the anesthesia. Very cool. Make it stop. So I remember they gave me more pain medication, and then that seemed to make it stop. Apparently this whole process was 20 minutes. I only remember like 2 minutes of it. But also I woke up with a lot of like post catheter discomfort, and I was like, why does it feel that way down there? Because I had no memory of anyone ever telling me that I was gonna have a catheter. Granted, someone could have, but like, I don't know. Also, guess who woke up with 4 holes in her abdomen instead of 3? Because you can tell in the text that I sent Bethany, I was like, I get one on my belly button and then 2 on the side, because I think that that's what the surgeon had told me. Of course, now I have no idea what's real. But also, the surgery was taking like a suspiciously long time. They told me, oh, you're only in actual surgery for maybe an hour, so your partner can go home for like 2 hours, and we'll be calling him when it's done and making sure that he's there when you wake up. But I was in surgery for like 3 hours. My mom was texting with Scott, getting concerned, like, why is she not out yet, etc. But Scott was there ready, you know, when they were wheeling me up to my actual room. And when I came out, I do have a memory of saying this. I saw Scott's face and I went, we did it. But he said that it was kind of scary and like weird to see me that way, because he was like, it was very clear that absolutely nobody was home. So once again, I just, at my core, a really goofy goober. And then also, I don't really have a memory of this, but apparently when we were in the elevator, he like got in the way and like kind of was causing a traffic jam between like us and other people that needed to move in and out of the elevator. And apparently I told him, get out of the way. Apparently, even in that state, I was a little bit more observant than him. That's a common theme, a running joke throughout our relationship. But anyway, I woke up enough by 8:30 to take a much more happy photo, because he had sent me a picture and was like, you did it. And I was like, I never liked that stupid organ anyway. Then the nurse got me up, because they actually want you up and walking around like literally immediately after surgery. I mean, not walking around. She took me up to go pee, and then she like helped me back into bed. She brought me some broth that I apparently wanted, but then I just was out like a light, passed out. You're interrupted far less times throughout the night when you're in your actual hospital room, when you're out of the ER. So that was really nice. We got some more like uninterrupted sleep. There were a couple interruptions here and there, like the nurse coming in and whatever, but we slept from like 9:30 to 10 the next day. The nurse got me up again to pee around 1:30 in the morning, and Scott had not reclined the guest chair, so he was curled up like a shrimp in the bottom half of the chair. The nurse tried to wake him up and said his name over and over, and he just would not wake up. So then she takes me to go pee, and then as I'm standing, I can see just like how crunched up he is, and I'm like, okay, he can't sleep like that. I'll try to wake him up. And then on the first little touch and me saying his name, he wakes up and he's like, what? Ugh, so romantic, like just with my voice. And I was like, Scott, you can't sleep like this. Like, get up so we can fully recline the chair. And he doesn't have a memory of this, bless him, but he was like, no, it's all good. It's okay. And I was like, no, Scott, like, you need to get up. And he was like, no, I'm fine. I just, once again, I was like, no, Scott, get up. Like, we need to recline the chair. So he gets up, and then the nurse like makes the chair go fully flat, and he lays down, and I'm like, better? And he's like, oh yeah, so much better. He's out like a light again. So am I. I just was taking Tylenol throughout the night. They didn't give me anything heavier than that. Didn't need anything heavier than that. The surgeon came in, I don't know, around like 9:30. Maybe he was the one that woke us up around that time. He removed some bandage from my midsection, and that was uncomfortable. I also didn't really want to look at the situation going on down there. But anyway, then he was like, do you think you can go home today? You can either suffer here or you can suffer at home. Like, and I was like, I think I'm fine. Yeah, I'll go home. So then I was out of there by 3 p.m. that day. They did prescribe me oxys just in case, but I didn't end up taking a single one throughout my recovery. I was fine with Tylenol, and even most days I didn't even need the Tylenol. The night that I got home from the hospital was probably the absolute worst in terms of just the discomfort and the swelling. I kind of was in misery misery at that time. Beyond that, it was pretty smooth sailing. There were some annoying, weird little symptoms here and there. My nerves all down there were definitely on the fritz. Your nerves are just like, they're acting up. And then plus also from having the catheter, it's some weird shit is going on down there. That discomfort clears up really quickly though, luckily. Like I said, I also definitely had an IV leak because it was like all down my arm. That discomfort lasted for like over a week. So when I would like stretch my hand out this way, I would feel it down here. I had some bruising on my arm. And then that discomfort was only around like my wrist right here. I can still feel it a little bit when I press there. But now that pain and discomfort is almost completely cleared up. Sleep was also really, really annoying because I am not a back sleeper. And that was probably the worst symptom that I had. My back just felt like too tight cords. That was so painful, like just having to be still and laying on my back for so long after being in the hospital, and then in recovery having to still be laying on my back. So the heat pad was huge. I already use that for my back sometimes before, or just on chilly winter nights or like for cramps. So I already had that. Luckily, that was huge in my recovery. And then with sleep, because I am like a side and stomach sleeper, my body just couldn't help itself. I think it was like the second night that I was home, I ended up sleeping on my side for a little bit, and I leaked my wound. One of my wounds leaked just a wee bit. But nothing crazy. It was fine. And then beyond that point, I just made sure to use like really thick pillows to support my legs if I was going to sleep on my side. That way my core wouldn't like sort of crunch in on itself. With the knee like and leg support, I was able to kind of keep myself more propped up. So I do recommend that if you just need to sleep on your side. And then also getting up and walking around is really important throughout the recovery, just to make sure that like you're moving things around, and then getting out of your house and getting out for actual walks as soon as you can is also very important. Because I was doing heavy lifting before and they tell you, oh, get back to your regular routine as your body allows. And I was like, well, I'm assuming that I can't be swimming laps and doing heavy lifting, right? They're like, oh, you're probably not gonna do that for a while. So walks have been huge. They've been the main thing. Hi there. One thing that I neglected to mention about recovery is a really big thing and a really important thing. When I woke up in the morning, I was starting to have quite a bit of gas, which was news to me. I didn't realize that that was such an important thing to like be passing gas before they release you from the hospital, but they just want to make sure that everything is moving along. I also was under the impression that they let the CO2 out of your body once they're finished with the surgery, like they suck it out somehow. That is not the case, apparently. They just sort of let it reabsorb back into your body and then you're supposed to release it. Also, throughout the first week of recovery, I would say, whenever I would eat, sometimes I would experience some pretty severe pangs of nausea, but they would go away really quickly. But I would feel pretty fatigued and pretty bad after most meals in the first week of recovery. It was never anything that lasted super long, but I think because they're really messing around in there with your digestive system, it's just tired. And so having to eat and putting food into it, it just expends a lot of energy. And I already was having the post-surgery fatigue. That was another thing I don't think I mentioned. And in recovery, I was mostly just in the mood for like smoothie bowls. I ordered a lot of those, got those with some protein powder, and then soup was huge. Had some chicken noodle soup, had some minestrone soup. Can definitely recommend those as some good, healthy comfort foods when you're in recovery. Also, Scott's mom loaded me up with some homemade tamales. That was awesome. So yeah, expect to be pretty gassy for like the first week. Expect some tummy aches after you eat for a little while, but it's nothing major. Truly, it was harder to recover from my wisdom teeth surgery. Anyway, that's enough from me. Carrying on. A weird thing in my recovery, a very, very weird coincidence happened when I was reading The Stand. This was when I was like 5 or 6 days out from surgery. One of the characters in the book gets appendicitis. Look at it right there, right there. It's appendicitis. And it kills him, by the way. And then also literally 2 pages later, my birthday. One of the characters, Fran, who is in the group with the man who died, she keeps a diary and she dates it on my birthday. The appendicitis and my birthday within the same, too much. Too much. Freaked me out a little bit. And I already, you know, the few days after the hospital, you're like coming down from all the drugs and stuff that they gave you. So you sleep really well the first few nights and then you start feeling kind of anxious. And I'm still having extremely vivid dreams. And I'm 2 weeks out from the surgery. At first they were nightmares. Now they're just really weird, vivid dreams. So it's getting better. I'm feeling a little bit more rested. But yeah, that did me no favors. I like to read before bed and then that kind of freaked me out anyway. I had my follow-up appointment with the surgeon about about 10 days out from my surgery, and that was really smooth because like I had no complications or anything. I didn't have any complaints. He just checked the strips and then he let me know like my biopsy results. He said it was definitely appendicitis. You do not have cancer. And I said, what? I did not know that cancer was something I needed to be worried about, but thanks, Chief. Then he asked if I had any questions and I said, well, where's my appendix? When do I get it back? That was a joke that I really wanted to make in the hospital, but then I forgot. So got that one in there, and then he thought it was funny. He told me that some people do keep like their gallstones and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's gross. And he was like, yeah, sorry, your appendix is probably cut up to get these biopsy results, but if it ever grows back, then next time I'll remove it for you for free. So anyway, yesterday I tried to do some light lifting, like very light compared to my normal kind of routine. I did a little bit of upper body stuff, and that had me exhausted for like the majority of the rest of the day. Really took it out of me, but if I don't lift and like I don't exercise, then I am full of energy. Like I feel kind of back to normal, but obviously I'm not if like I can't really engage in exercise without getting super fatigued. Apparently that's normal though for like the first couple weeks. And then apparently you're like fully healed after 4 weeks, but you're not completely back to your normal self and normal energy until 6 weeks. That's like the approximation. So I'm looking forward to that. The strips are all still on, but they're definitely starting to peel. So those are going to fall off soon. Also in my recovery, I've made a couple of pot holders. This one's kind of Halloween themed. So is this one. This one is like an upside down cross. I think I might throw them on my Poshmark. It's been a really good little craft to have to keep me company. But anyway, I'm feeling good. It's a very common surgery with very minimal complications. So I know that I might have just relayed to you quite a horror story. But even though you can qualify it as a near-death experience, you're gonna be okay. This is something that humans have been going through forever, and it happens to so many people that, trust me, they know what they're doing, okay? They gotta yank these bad boys out all the time. That doesn't mean it's not scary, but truly, like once you're out of the hospital, it feels like, wow, what a distant and bizarre dream that was. Oh, you know, another super shitty thing that I've caught myself saying to people, I've been like, you know, I'm actually kind of grateful that that just happened because I'm still 25 and I'm still on my parents' health insurance. Again, I live in the United States of hell, but nonetheless, I have to count my blessings, right? So anyway, I can answer any follow-up questions you guys might have in the comments down below, but I hope that I have armed you with enough knowledge to know what to do should this ever happen to you. Do not wait to go to the hospital. I know one of Scott's parents' friends, this happened to her recently as well, but she waited, I think, over 12 hours before she went to the ER. Her appendix burst in the ER. Mine was close to it, and I went to the ER after only being in pain for 3 hours. It's a very quick onset thing, so just trust your body. You'll know when something is wrong. The main question that I've got, like when I was posting about it on Instagram and stuff, was, well, what does it feel like? Severe gas, you'll probably be getting really sick, you'll be losing all your fluids, and you won't be experiencing any kind of relief from that. I trust that you will know. I think you'll know if it's happening to you. Now, of course, I have absolutely no medical background. This all was just my own experience and a lot of my own opinions, but I hope that it was helpful or comforting perhaps nonetheless. If you're heading onto that surgery table today, don't worry, you will be okay. You'll be kicking about just like me in about a week's time, don't you worry. That's gonna do it. I did not expect to talk for over an hour about this story. I don't know how long it's gonna be cut down, but goddamn, holy hell, there were a lot of details, which is surprising given how much of this experience that I forgot. Click that like button for me. 1 like equals 1 pat on the back to my appendectomy surgeon. He did a great job. Also click the subscribe, click the notification bell, that way you never miss the next video. Also definitely check out my Haunted Hippie channel. If you enjoy horror stories and horror movies, then that's what I talk about over there. I also have a Patreon where depending on which tier you join, you get a bonus video every single week. More than anything, I just hope that you enjoyed this video and that I catch you in the next one. Bye.